Imagine, if you can, the chilling sound of a Mayday call, just slicing through the calm of an airport control tower.
Mm,
It's a sound that instantly signals, well, immense danger, high stakes, and a desperate plea for help.
yeah.
That's really where we begin today. We're taking a deep dive into the recent Air India flight AI-171 crash in Ahmedabad using the articles and reports you've provided.
Right.
Our mission is to, go beyond the headlines, giving you a clear, concise, and insightful understanding of exactly what happened, the complex ongoing investigation, and of course, the profound human impact of this tragedy.
And what's truly striking here is the contrast, isn't it? How quickly events unfolded in those catastrophic moments, yet the aftermath.
Well, it's a meticulously slow, agonizing process.
That's a really good point.
We're going to journey from the immediate horror through the painstaking recovery efforts into the complex investigation, trying to figure out why this first ever Boeing 787 Dreamliner crash occurred, and finally, maybe consider the broader implications for aviation safety worldwide. Okay, so let's go back to those devastating first moments of AI-171, just to paint a clearer picture of what actually transpired.
Yeah.
This was Air India flight AI-171, bound for London Gatwick, and it crashed moments after failing to properly take off from Ahmedabad Airport on a Thursday.
That's right. Captain Sumit Sabharwal, the pilot, sent that Mayday call just seconds, or maybe less than a minute, after the plane left the runway.
Just seconds. Wow.
Air traffic control responded, acknowledged it, but then nothing. Received no further communication from the aircraft. The brevity of that exchange, the immediate silence after, it must have been absolutely chilling for those in the tower.
I can only imagine. What does that really short window suggest to investigators about the nature of the emergency? It must be something sudden, right?
Exactly, something very sudden, very catastrophic. And that brief ascent you mentioned to 650 feet for a 227-ton Dreamliner, that's a crucial detail.
Okay.
It indicates the plane did achieve initial lift, so it wasn't, a simple failure right on the runway.
Okay, so that sort of narrows the focus, maybe.
It does, often towards something that happened very shortly after takeoff.
Right.
Which makes the why even more perplexing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
After reaching that brief height, it rapidly descended, hitting the ground in Magani Nagar, just 2 kilometers from Ahmedabad Airport.
So close.
And the impact on the ground. Just tragic, unexpected. Crashing into a hostel where medical students and their families lived,
Oh.
killing at least 4 student doctors, a pregnant doctor's wife, and several laborers and vendors just in the area.
Just devastating collateral damage. And when we connect this to the bigger picture, the scale of loss is just immense and profoundly heartbreaking.
Yeah.
All but one of the 242 people on board perished.
Just one survivor.
The sole survivor, a British man, Vishwash Kumar Ramesh, his escape was described as a miracle, and he is reportedly recovering well in hospital, which is, well, something.
A tiny bit of good news in all this horror.
But in total, at least 279 people died. That includes those 38 on the ground. A survival rate of less than 1% for a major crash like this really underscores the sheer force of the impact.
Absolutely. And the passenger demographics, they really highlight the global reach of this tragedy. 169 Indian passengers, 53 British, 7 Portuguese, 1 Canadian, plus 12 crew members. It wasn't just a national tragedy. Its impact really reverberated around the world, felt acutely by communities like the UK's Indian community, who held a multi-faith vigil outside the Indian High Commission in London.
Yeah, a sign of that global connection. So once the immediate disaster response winds down, the crucial question becomes, how do you even begin to understand why?
Right. The investigation.
That's where the intensive investigation begins. It's being led by Indian officials, but with vital assistance from experts from the UK and US.
That international cooperation is pretty standard in these cases, isn't it?
It is. Aviation safety is a global concern. A team of 4 UK aviation accident experts specifically arrived to assist, which really speaks to that.
And what investigators always race against time for? What often unlocks the deepest secrets of a crash? Those black boxes.
Crucial black boxes, yes.
And it sounds like they were recovered with, well, remarkable speed in this case.
They were. Within 28 hours of the disaster, the first black box, containing the flight data recorder, the FDR, was found.
Okay, that's quick.
Then on Sunday, so a few days after the crash, the cockpit voice recorder, the CVR, was located.
Ah, the CVR. So that means investigators are now preparing to study the pilot's last words, looking for clues there.
Exactly. Crucial information potentially on that recorder.
How quickly can they usually, extract and analyze that data. And what are the biggest challenges they face with that, assuming the boxes aren't too damaged?
Well, India's Civil Aviation Minister, Ram Mohan Naidu Kandarappu, stated that decoding these black boxes will provide in-depth insight into what would have actually happened. Practically, once they're found, and if they're in reasonable condition, data extraction can begin almost immediately. But the full analysis, correlating it with other evidence, that takes time, often weeks or realistically months.
Right. Makes sense.
What's particularly fascinating, or maybe telling, are the initial focus areas investigators are reportedly looking at: potential engine failure, issues with the wing flaps, landing gear problems.
So key systems for takeoff.
Absolutely. For a sophisticated aircraft like the 787, these aren't just random checks. They represent distinct failure modes, from a complete loss of power with engine failure to aerodynamic control issues with flaps that can manifest very differently in the flight data.
So figuring out which one, or if it was a combination.
It's like solving a high-stakes puzzle with extremely high consequences. Pinpointing the sequence is key.
And beyond the immediate mechanical aspects, the investigation will also look at broader considerations, right? Like the possibility of human error, or maybe aspects related to aircraft maintenance at Air India itself,
Definitely.
which, as you know, is owned by Tata Group now and has been trying to revamp its aging fleet.
Yeah, those factors always come into play. How do those human and maintenance factors typically intersect with potential mechanical failures in aviation accidents? Is it often a chain reaction?
It often is. They can form a really complex web. Sometimes, a mechanical issue might be made worse or maybe missed entirely due to maintenance lapses.
Right.
Or human error in reacting to an emergency could turn what might have been a recoverable situation into a full-blown catastrophe.
A cascade of failures.
Exactly. Indian aviation authorities expect a complete assessment within 3 months, stating that every theory going around about the crash will be looked at.
3 months? That sounds quite ambitious for such a complex investigation, especially given the scale of the wreckage and the impact.
It does seem ambitious, one to see. But while that technical investigation meticulously seeks answers, the profound human toll of this tragedy just continues to unfold, often in the most agonizing ways.
Yeah, the aftermath for the families.
Identifying the victims has been described as meticulous and slow, understandably so, with many bodies being heavily charred or dismembered by the sheer force of the crash.
The psychological toll on the teams involved in that process must be just immense.
Unimaginable.
Yeah.
It's truly heartbreaking. Relatives are providing DNA samples, but as of 72 hours post-crash, only 11 DNA matches have been made.
Only 11 after 3 days.
And just 3 sets of remains handed over at that point. By Sunday, so a bit later, about 80 had been identified.
Progress, but slow and painful progress.
And officials have even had to warn families they might receive their relatives' remains in a kit rather than a full coffin, just due to the fragmented condition of many bodies.
Receiving remains in a kit. That image alone just drives home the horrific reality, doesn't it? The devastating nature of such a crash. It goes beyond anything most people can really imagine.
It really does. And you hear the stories, and they just stick with you, revealing the layers of devastation. Reinald Christian, 23, the brother of a passenger, spoke about the delayed communication.
Understandably frustrated, I imagine.
Yeah, he said, they said it would take 48 hours. But it's been 4 days and we haven't received any response. And his brother was the sole breadwinner for the family.
Oh, that just adds another profound layer to the tragedy, doesn't it? The immediate economic impact on families on top of the grief.
Exactly. The frustration is just palpable. Anil Patel, who lost his son Harshit, 30, and daughter-in-law Pooja, 28.
Awful.
He expressed his agitation, saying, "We still don't know exactly when we'll get the body. I just want to bring them home soon. The longer they stay there, the more they'll deteriorate."
You can feel his pain just in those words.
He even described smelling the stench of charred bodies from the post-mortem block.
Oh, wow. When you hear stories like that, it really underscores how the pain extends long, long after the initial headlines fade, especially in these situations where identification is so difficult.
And the loss is felt by families across borders, which creates even more hurdles. The Syed family, British citizens, Javed Ali Syed, his wife Mariam, and their 2 young children, Zain, 5, and Amani, 4. They were all among the dead.
The whole family. Just terrible.
And Mariam's family, who are from Pakistan, haven't been allowed to travel to India for DNA samples.
Oh, that complicates things immensely.
Yeah, raising concerns about the condition of the bodies for repatriation eventually. The logistics of international tragedies like this just add another layer of complexity to the grief.
Absolutely. Bureaucracy on top of bereavement.
And amidst all this, a former chief minister of Gujarat state, a senior member of India's ruling party, was among the identified victims. He received a flag-draped coffin.
Hmm.
Though some relatives apparently were instructed not to open coffins, again, just emphasizing the severe nature of the impact.
Yeah, a grim instruction. Looking beyond the immediate aftermath and the human anguish, though, there's the crucial industry response and what this means for the future of aviation.
Right. Air India was immediately ordered to carry out additional maintenance and checks on its 33 remaining Boeing 787 planes.
That's a standard but significant immediate safety measure. Precautionary but necessary.
Definitely. And Air India's chair, N. Chandrasekaran, addressed nearly 700 staff, calling this the most heartbreaking crisis of his career.
That's a strong statement from the cop.
Beyond the sort of corporate messaging, what does a statement like that reveal about the internal pressure?
Yep.
And maybe the cultural shift Air India might be undergoing, especially with their ongoing revamp under Tata.
Well, it reveals the immense responsibility they feel, I think, and the profound impact on morale, especially for an airline like Air India that's been working so hard to rebuild its reputation and modernize its fleet.
Yeah.
He urged employees to use it as an active force to build a safer airline and be resolute in the face of criticism, acknowledging the complexity of aircraft systems and the need to figure out why it happens. It's really a call to action for internal change, isn't it?
It sounds like it. A difficult call, but maybe a necessary one.
What's also interesting is that on the same Monday, apparently, an Air India 787 flying from Hong Kong to New Delhi turned back safely after a pilot suspected a technical issue.
Oh, really?
Which indicates, a heightened caution throughout the fleet. That's a natural, almost immediate response after such a disaster.
You'd hope so.
But it also shows the robust safety protocols at play. Suspicion leads to action.
Good point. And Boeing, the manufacturer, has also responded, although maybe with a quieter presence.
Seems that way. They scaled back their presence at the Paris Air Show, which is a leading aerospace event, canceled a media reception.
Right, I saw that. Their CEO, Kelly Ortberg, even pulled out of the air show entirely.
Yeah. Though a Boeing team has been sent to Ahmedabad to assist the investigation, which is standard procedure.
Of course. But what does that kind of public withdrawal at a major industry event signify for a company like Boeing? Is it just optics?
It's partly optics, certainly. It signifies a deep recognition of the gravity of the situation and, a desire to avoid any perception of insensitivity or a business-as-usual approach, especially when an investigation into their aircraft is ongoing.
Makes sense.
But it's also likely about focusing resources where they're most needed right now, on the investigation itself.
And despite this being the first fatal crash involving a Boeing 787 Dreamliner,
Which is a significant point.
it's worth noting that big airlines worldwide are continuing to operate the model normally. There are over 1,000 in regular service.
Yeah, that's important context. It suggests that while this incident is obviously a serious concern, it hasn't led to a widespread grounding or halt in operations for the model.
So there's still underlying confidence in the aircraft's overall safety record.
It seems so, combined with trust in the ongoing investigations to find the specific cause here. Airlines rely on those findings.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? This deep dive has hopefully pulled back the curtain on the immediate horror of the Air India flight AI-171 crash, the methodical and complex investigation now underway, and the deeply personal, agonizing impact on the families left behind.
Yeah.
It's offered you, we hoped, a rare glimpse into the intricate interplay of human factors, technological systems, and the immense pressure points in aviation safety, taking you well beyond just the surface-level news reports.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And maybe leaves you with this thought to consider. In an era of increasingly complex technology and these interconnected global systems, this tragedy really serves as a stark reminder. How do we balance our reliance on intricate engineering, on these incredibly complex machines, with the ever-present human element? That includes everyone from the pilots in the cockpit to the maintenance crews on the ground.
That balance is key, isn't it?
And how do we ensure that safety remains absolutely paramount, even when those perfected systems designed with countless redundancies, fail in ways we didn't foresee?
Right. What does this tragedy ultimately tell us about the ongoing relentless quest for true resilience in our most critical infrastructures? Not just planes, but everything.
Exactly. It's a question that extends far beyond aviation, isn't it? Something for all of us to think about.